I've been noticing that the games I consider important, with beautiful imagery, moving storylines, or impressive gameplay challenges, they aren't the games I'm spending most of my time playing. Creeper World is a series of 5 video games I have spent many hours playing. In each of these, you face the Creeper, huge quantities of liquid or particles which destroy anything they touch. You start alone, build resource generators, weapons, and infrastructure, and eventually push back the Creeper. Hopefully. And over 5 installments of the game series, this basic formula pretty much doesn't change. So why do I keep playing these? Well, beautiful, story-rich games that I admire sit neglected. Well, if you're gonna deep dive on why your mind does a weird thing, there's one classic psychoanalyst to start with. Freud. Sigmund Freud wrote about a compulsion to repeat. This is an instinctual acting out of some prior trauma. He even observed a child making a game from their negative experience. Freud thought that perhaps by repeatedly exposing himself to the threat of his earlier trauma in a game, that child was finding a way to feel more in control. So maybe this is a thing to explain why I'm repeatedly playing Creeper World. Is the situation in the game familiar? The game always starts you isolated in a new place, the Creeper is overwhelming, pervasive, and relentless, and your weapons only make the tiniest of dents. That does seem like a situation I was in when I was playing the games through my late 20s and 30s. During that time, I'd moved to a new city, I had to make new friends, I got dumped by my long-term partner, changed career, it was pretty overwhelming. I landed a job at an amazing workplace, but over a few years experienced it going really downhill. Even though I worked really hard to improve things, spoke up, led initiatives, I rallied people to call for change, my efforts weren't enough to turn the tide. When I was 36, I quit. Freud observed that organisms are biologically wired to die eventually, but despite that, they'll strive very hard to survive until that point. He posits that our instinct to survive isn't actually to evade death, but to manage to die in our own way. Okay, so I have a compulsion to repeat. I'll use a game to put myself in a situation that resembles the overwhelm of the past, and if it seems like I'm going to fail, I'll sometimes bring it on in a way where I feel like I have agency. So maybe we've identified the thing I'm doing when I repeatedly play. Can we explore further about why Creeper World in my difficult 30s might seem threatening to my mind now? Those mistakes are in the past, I'm safe now, right? The thing is, I felt pretty secure when things went wrong then too. There was a disconnect between my understanding of the world and what actually happened. My understanding was wrong. More psychoanalysis, please. Jacques Lacan described several orders in which the human psyche operates. One of these he called the real, though it doesn't mean what we typically call reality. Lacan's real is the order of things which you can't imagine or express. In our minds, we form images of how we understand the world to work, we create systems to communicate these with each other, but every time we do this, there is a part of reality which eludes us. This is the Lacanian real. All the ways you could be wrong about reality. Looking back at when I was younger and had those failures, it's not simply that I didn't have all the right information at the time. I cannot know the world with total certainty. Or other people, partners, colleagues, organisations. They're like the creeper particles in the game. Predictable, but only to a point. Sure, video games like Creeper World operate on rules, but I can't hold the position and velocity of every particle in my head. The system is complex enough that I can't hope to completely predict it. So, how do I adapt? Lacan writes that a game player faced with the reality that the other is unknowable can only resort to trying to find some greater law which presides over the game. I try to find patterns, trends, I strategize. In my life then too, Lacan's real, that unknowable element, is always there. A little chaos that runs interference. I need to find some greater order. Faith, a philosophy, a strategy, something. An academic called Callum Matheson wrote specifically about compulsion to repeat in video games. There is unease at the risk of failure, but enjoyment at feeling control despite the uncertainty of the Lacanian real. So my decisions and actions will differ moment to moment and game to game. The game is unpredictable to a degree, but each time I deploy my strategy to overcome it, I enjoy feeling more in control. And if the unexpected happens and I can't overcome the creeper, I can always walk away from the video game unharmed by any real-world intergalactic ooze, I'm pretty sure. The Creeper World series is not the fantasy of epic stories, beautiful other worlds, or demanding mechanics to master. It provides a different kind of fantasy, one in which I can, despite my limitations, even though I might be alone, meet the challenges of the overwhelmingly large and complex world, and its tendency to surprise me with brutal reality checks. I don't know that I'll ever laud the games as favourites, but I have formed a new understanding of why they've occupied so much of my time.